Well, I think, Raj, to be honest, it feels a bit embarrassing. I don't, I haven't been raised that way. It's not about, uh, it's whatever I've done, even in my movies, or the NGOs I run, it's about the work. It's about the end product. It's about the performance. It's not about the hyping it up about myself on social media or before the advent of social media, talking about it a lot. It's about always, for me, the work should be considerably larger than your mouth. Make no mistake, I'm deeply honored. It was the Kalinga Institute of Technology, Industrial Technology, KIIT, across the road, where on the same day, they named the tennis center after Leander Paes, the shooting range after Abhinav Bindra. Leander was there. Dilip Tirke was there to inaugurate the hockey stadium under in his name. Duti Chand, the athletic stadium. And so Vishwanath and Anand, the chess hall. So I look at the company I'm keeping. It's ridiculous. It is totally not commensurate to what I have done for the sport compared to what they have done for their sports. Therefore, it's deeply honoring, but vaguely embarrassing also, because it's just weird, right, to have something named after you um, when you don't have one foot in the grave. So, but I have said this, and I wasn't being politically correct. I'll say it again. If there is any name that is on the soil of 100 football, rugby grounds in this country where we play, it is the names of the coaches, the administrators, the guys who are slogging to get the t-shirts made before the state championships, the guys who are slogging to get money for the food packets in an inter-school championship. When I say guys, I mean women and men. It's the captain of the women's under-18 team who's a tribal girl, Mama Nayak. It goes to Sandhya, who's the daughter of tea garden laborers in Saraswatipur, who was the under-20 captain and had played so well just now in Borneo. It goes into Remuddin, who works at Rugby India now, who has a street named after him in a small gully outside of his um, slum tenement in Mumbai. So let's not kid ourselves. It is a recognition for the sport first, that there is even something called a rugby stadium. But there's a it's the sport is recognized. There are many sports that have not been named in that area, but rugby has, obviously, because Kiss and Kit have a very historic and large part to play in the success of Indian rugby in India. I understand that. That's the thrill. It is with the sky above, the ground below you, beneath your feet, and a ball in your hand. And that, for me, is, my heart becomes so full, sometimes I feel like crying. Because you're just there. That's the essence of the game. That we will all move together and we will all do this. It doesn't matter whose name is on that stadium, but we have a stadium. Even before I took over as president, it was always in my mind as to where should this sport go. Now, a national federation, Raj, a sports federation, exists to win. I'll explain. If you're not interested in winning, you can run a wonderful sports NGO. There's no pressure. But if you're running a federation, it is your duty to win. Grassroots work, fine. All of that development work, fine. Social transformation, fine. As a federation, you have to win. As an NGO, you don't. So, the first thing I said is, what does winning mean for us? And I said, Olympics 2028. No field team has made the Olympics from India except for hockey in 75 years. Perhaps soccer happened before in the 50s. So, audacious, possibly impossible dream. To get to the Olympics in 2028, you have to be in the top 2 countries in Asia. Now, women are ranked number 8th. In the multi-sport games like Asian Games, Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games, where Rugby Sevens is the format, which is the T20 format of rugby, compared to 15-a-side rugby, which is the test match format. In these multi-sport games, we are ranked number 8th. So, and this is an unofficial ranking, but the official rankings haven't yet come out. Anyway, how do you climb 6 places in 5 years? So at the time it was 6 years. So the first thing is you have to dream. You have to fix your eyes on some goal. And I'm saying this is all the while all the grassroots work, which I'll talk to you about later, is being done. But at the high performance level, this is your dream. What's next? From a dream, you next have to put your intellect to create a pathway to the dream that is remotely realistic. So I sat down with the team and we created a pathway. At the time, it was a 73-month pathway, month by month, leading to the Olympics. So now we know where we should be after every 2-3 months. And if we're not there, then we've fallen back. So it's literally every month as a marker for where you should be and where you shouldn't be. Once you use your intellect and create this path, you know what you need. You need a high-performance 360-degree great South African coaching team. You have your sports psychologist. You have your sports science backing from Abhinav Bindra Targeting Performance Center. You have you're paying your players for the first time, etc., etc. Yes, every sports federation will do that. But once you've created this intellect, this path with your intellect, you have to work bloody hard to raise money, to pay the players, to bring sponsors in, to bring partners like Abhinav Bindra Targeting Performance Center, to get partners like Fasten Up, who are also our sponsors for nutrition. Our sponsorship revenues have increased about 110% in the last 15 months. This is the hard work that I am not going to glorify myself or the team for. It's stuff that you have to do, because now you have to put your money where your mouth is. Now, what are your actions after having this fancy dream and this fancy intellectual pathway? What is it that you have to do? What are you doing actually with your hands? We are in that phase, Raj. How are you going to leapfrog over 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 to get to 2? That has to be disruptive. And that disruptive idea now that we are just beginning to implement is what we call the talent transfer scheme. Talented, young women and men from other sports whose careers have come to a standstill. Let me underline this. Whose careers have come to a halt. The future of these players doesn't look very bright in the disciplines they've chosen. Coaches are very happy from other disciplines to give these players to us. Federations also say, these 20 players will not really make it. In fact, we are worried what to do with them now. It's those kind of players who are big and athletic. And this is a very basic requirement we have, where we need a certain height and a certain weight. And you have to run 60 meters in certain monoseconds or, etc. Very simple. And we're saying now Adil has invited us for 2 athletics meets. We went to both the meets. One was a throwers meet in Bellary. One was a under 19 meet in Udupi. And we've gotten 2 names. Okay, only 2. But if a sevens team is 14, if the squad is 14 and 7 people finally play, and you're increasing if you can increase that from 14 to 28 by the end of 2023, you've doubled your capacity. These other 14 will be raw, athletic, talented, gifted individuals athletically, but who knows whether they can play rugby or not? Will they crumble under mental pressure? Will they be able to take the day in and day out physical battering? So it's all of this that will prove to be impediments in us getting from 14 to 28. But if you don't do something like this, and this is only one of 7 routes we found, I'll give you another route. We're going to four of the most dynamic state association um, officials who have already begun to do talent transfer without even knowing it. They've picked up an athlete like Sweetie Kumari and made her a rugby player. They've picked up somebody from the ecosystem of, I think it was, she was a sprinter or a Kho player who's now playing for her state. So they've been doing this unconsciously, haphazardly. Now we're saying do it in a systematic manner, but always, Raj, do it with complete honesty, complete transparency, and great compassion towards other sports. We're not there to try and muscle in and poach somebody. Not at all. Your best and brightest are yours. Your talented are yours. We will take the ones who are going to be left behind. And we will say, you might have a chance to play for your country in another discipline in 2 years. You know that earlier, the IPL was 95% revenue from television and 5% from streaming when it started, and now it's become 50-50. So we recognize two things. One, this sport will never attract people, players, or sponsors if we're not on mass media. The sponsor says, I'm giving you X amount of crores. What am I getting in return for it? I can't have just a live feed on your Facebook page. So mass media, i.e. television, was what everybody was gunning for. Today it's going to be mass media and online. Now you have to develop, as we are developing a world-class property that will go on to mass media and online. And if you can spend 10 seconds and guess what it is going to be like. Till such time as that happens, let's say it happens in 16, 18 months from now, as it will. And we've been planning this, by the way, for 4.5 years. But we don't want to come out with it unless it's a world-class product, and it will be a world-class product. So in the interim, what are you going to do? In the interim, you have to begin to build a kind of fan viewership base online. There are it's not expensive. You can do it. And it will serve you to understand where are the views coming from. So we're right now in the process of tying up a deal with one of a very well-known online platform in India. And the deal is going to be our national tournaments. We will give you the rights to show that online, and we will give you the data so you can create interest around it. Let's start to see, Raj. And of course, our international tournaments that happen in India, that company will approach Asia Rugby and say, can we get the online rights? Because nobody actually else is competing for them. So it shouldn't be difficult. So where are the eyeballs coming from? You're saying you're being played in 310 districts out of 750. 40% of India is playing. Maybe not everybody in the district, but it's being played in 40% of India's districts. Who is watching? Who is playing? Who is interested? Where are those lights coming on at night to watch? So that is the thinking behind this, that let us just gather data that we can put a valuation to tomorrow. And of course, and I know when that property comes out in 16, 18 months from now, that in itself will be an explosive amount of data that will increase the valuation exponentially. But at least we'll have some numbers to go before that. The truth is, to actually monetize an online model is actually done by companies who will then say, we will charge for subscriptions. You want to watch Bihar versus Odisha, you want to watch India versus Iran, you subscribe for that game. But the money will go to the company that runs it. So obviously the deals are on, the negotiations are on as to what percentage of that will accrue to Rugby India. And let me add, what percentage of that will go to the players? After all, it's their performance that is making people come on to. So as a federation, we are very, very sensitive to those concerns. That's where the online conversation has started, and that's where the online conversation will be closed in the next week or 10 days for the next couple of years. When the property, as I've been telling you, this world-class property is ready to go and up there, it will be a different conversation. Without a shadow of doubt, if all goes well, if not both our teams will travel to the Asian Games in 2023. What kind of performance are we looking at? I certainly, without a shadow of doubt, it would be in the top 8, hopefully better than that. Um, by 2026, if you don't medal in the Asian Games, then you can't call yourselves in the top 3. If you're not in the top 3 or worst top 4, how are you going to get to the top 2 in 1.5 years after that? So, without a shadow of doubt, the next Asian Games, which will be 6 or 7, Raj, I'm not sure. 6, I think they'll go back to the cycle, the even number cycle. There's no question that we'll be gunning for a medal there. But it's so easy to say all this right now. It's so easy to say all this right now. In 3 years from now, I'll either have egg on my face or we'll celebrate together. That's the way it's going to be. But I just wanted to end, since we have very little time, I wanted to end by saying, look, we are keenly aware as a federation that we are completely unknown as a sport, and we have not miles, but hundreds of miles to go before we sleep. What we are very interested in is how we are doing this. I'll end by giving you a final example. We have made it our cornerstone to say players at the center of everything. So what as a federation we've decided is, if you take every decision from sponsorship to the kit, keeping the player in mind, you can never go wrong. All the sporting leagues, IPL, Pro Kabaddi League, Kho-Kho, the ones that are now defunct, everything has been looked at. You can learn from someone's mistakes as much as you can learn from someone's successes, Raj. In fact, it's good to look at someone's mistakes, given that we are coming from a small sport. So our cost rationalizations, all of that, we've gone through a lot. We've spoken to every stakeholder in corporate India, in sporting India, mostly everybody on what we plan to do. And we have absorbed information greedily to create what we believe is a really solid, world-class, but workable model. So we've taken knocks. It's been 4 years of taking hard knocks to understand. Our egos have been bruised. We have been ignored. Multiple messages have not been replied to. All that has happened. But that's okay. That's okay. So not just the IPL, short answer, every single league, its reasons for its success and reasons for its failure and what the revenues are and what's happening and why it didn't happen, all of that has been absorbed. And we will keep absorbing. We are not going to sit back on our knowledge base and say we know enough now. We'll keep absorbing till such time as this thing is opened, is inaugurated.